told us it was really about the details. How do you take advantage of a day like this to reset the moment?
I mean, the purpose is to be very intentional, to be very clear, not to overdo it, but give guys the amount of information that they need so that they can be prepared for what the next couple of days will look like as far as practice goes. These sessions are going to be longer. Like, as coaches, we love this moment, the opportunity to, hone in on one opponent and take, multiple days to prepare. Give a guy the opportunity, to learn how to study, learn how to prepare for these, series, ask questions, all those things. So we want to make sure we use our time wisely, but, dive in a little deeper.
You said last week that you were hoping the Milwaukee 2 in a row got these guys, especially without playoff experience, in that playoff mentality. Do you think it worked?
Yeah, I think we've had a couple of those situations where we've had Chicago back-to-back, Milwaukee back-to-back, where it gives you the opportunity to do those things. Again, take a plan, make an adjustment, go out and execute the plan. I think it was very helpful for our guys.
You mentioned last week that we were all kids and your parents would tell you things, but until you experienced it, you didn't know. What can you do as a coach to kind of prepare them for the moment and while keeping their emotions, and managing?
I think it all starts with your habits that you form from the very beginning of the season. And if you fall back on your training and fall back on your habits, you give yourself a chance. What you can't control is what it looks like where you're going. Playing on the road in your first playoff game, like, those are things that you can't control as a coach. Our guys will see what it looks like. We'll show them what it looks like. We've got video edits. We've got clips of, what the playoffs feel like, the things you can do more of and get away with in the playoffs and all those things. So we're going to give them as much information as we can to prepare them. But there's always that fine line of, like, we're not trying to create any extra anxiety either, and just being able to put them in positions where they can be themselves and go out and be successful.
I know you've spoken a lot about just Gabe's leadership and the way he's able to lead without leaving anyone behind, how empathetic he is. Can you pinpoint one game this season where you knew he had his leadership completely in control?
I'll go back. There was a game in Indiana, and I talked about it before, where Asar was in the corner. Cade threw him the ball. He missed a shot. Got it back. The right thing to do was to throw the ball to Asar again in the corner. He threw the ball back to Asar in the corner, and he made the shot. That to me was a standout moment where it was like, he really gets it, and he understands, what his teammates need, what his belief in his teammates, and how much that means to them as well.
I know you're not going to dive too much into it, but when you go back and you take a look at the film, what are some of the intangibles that stood out that led to y'all having success against the Knicks this season?
Yeah, I'm not going to answer that. I'm not going to answer that.
I know the game stays the game, but Stu mentioned just having veterans around can help for the guys who've never been through this before. What is it you want that group to show some of these younger guys?
Just composure and poise, focus, attention to detail, routine, all the things that may not necessarily happen on the floor yet, but lead up to success on the floor. And then when you do get on the floor, understanding the moment, understanding what your impact is and how important limiting mistakes are, and making sure that, those veteran guys are leading the way in those areas.
Is it somewhat of a relief to you that the brand of ball you guys play here, you don't have to tell these guys, okay, now it's time to be grittier or have more fire, that they already have at least that element down?
Yeah, no doubt. Again, it's, it was mindful, putting the plan in place to prepare yourself for the long haul. We genuinely believe that you have to be that way. There's not going to be a lot of finesse out there that ends up winning at the level that we want our guys to go to win at. So, the plan going to begin with was, let's be that, because we can control it, right? We can control how physical we are. We can control how gritty we are. What it's going to come down to is now when teams are playing that way towards you, now how does your experience help you, and how can your offense get going when teams are being physical with you?
Because a lot of these guys get set for their first playoff game. Can you recall your first playoff game as a coach and what was running through you in that moment?
My first playoff game as a head coach was when I took over in Houston, and it was in Oracle Arena versus the Warriors. And again, we had played them 2 years in a row before that, so you had an understanding of what it was going to be like, what it was going to feel like. But for me, this is the fun part, right? And that's what I want our guys to understand is you work your tail off all season long, and this is the payoff. This is the reward for all the work that you put in throughout the regular season. And if you are a competitor, there's no more competitive time. There's no more opportunity, to enjoy this level of competition than this time of year in the NBA.
Were you nervous that night, or did that melt away pretty quickly?
No. If you're prepared, you shouldn't be nervous. So.
You've used this word a couple times, gritty. Cade said you're in the city for long enough, and that just kind of rubs off on you. Why do you think Detroit has that effect on the way this team plays?
It's been that way as long as I can remember. Again, I grew up watching the bad boys play. You think about the city of Detroit, the people from Detroit. Nothing's ever easy, right? It's all hard earned, and it's a mindset of a workmanship mentality. And I think, again, we try our best to connect our guys to the fan base, and that's what our fans want to see. Is they want to see, a team that they can relate to, and that's what our guys are. Like what we do for our fans. There's no doubt about it. And so, when you want to reflect the image of this city and you want to earn the respect of this town, like you have to be that way. And I think our guys have bought into that.
Jamie, is this an important step for Cade to start getting the treatment or respect or whatever you want to call it as a star in this league? Maybe he hasn't treated now.
Again, all that stuff comes with winning, right? And you can be as talented as you want to be and as good as you want to be, but if you don't impact winning, you're not going to get the recognition that you probably deserve or want. And I think what Cade has shown this year is that he impacts winning in a high way. He's an all-NBA player in my mind for sure. And those players don't come on teams that don't win basketball games. I know what Cade wants to be and what he aims to be. And those players that are at that level, they win. And that's why, I think he deserves everything that he's gotten. And I know how hungry he is, and he's pushing for more.
Jamie, obviously, the playoffs are a different game, but how do you prepare your guys to slow down guys like Brunson and Kemp over the course of all seasons?
Again, you have to be resilient, and the mindset is you got to go out and keep doing the same thing over and over again. That's the best part about it is, like, they're not going to change. You know what your opponent's going to do. You know what their strengths are. You know what their weaknesses are. It's not always easy to get these great players to their weaknesses, but you have to show some resolve. They're going to have a night where they score a bunch, but you can't quit. You can't back down. So, again, study the film, understand who they are, what they're trying to get to, and then do your best to over and over again try to get them to their weaknesses.
Chris Finch a few weeks ago said that he voted you for Coach of the Year, and we'll see how that goes, obviously, but just from talking to coaches around the league, what's been your impression of how people have viewed what the Pistons have been able to do this year just as a collective?
People show respect to it, and that's nothing to do with coaching. That's with those guys on the floor that go out there every single night and earn the respect of their opponents. And, again, that's what all this comes down to is you're aiming for the respect of your peers. A lot of these awards and things like that, that are, media driven or whatever. But if you ask the guys that are on that floor trying to compete, it matters to them what their peers think about them. And, when they earn that respect is when you've made it. And that's what this is all about for these guys.
What is it about Trajan that seems to have gotten everybody on the team in this short amount?
He's very principled. He's very secure. And he cares about the people that are around him. And when you work with somebody like that, it makes your job easier, and it gives you the want and the belief to buy in. And that's what he's created, is a place where, the environment is awesome. His leadership is amazing, and you buy into whatever, direction he wants to go. And then he allows you to be yourself while you do it.
Thanks, Jake.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.